Through the course of the last couple of weeks, I was trying out these assault rifles to prepare for the rank reset, to just know which ones I can use in sweaty lobbies and which I cannot, and just to check the guns overall. And so in this video I will just go through conclusions. LK24, I had this one nice high kill gameplay before the season update, before the buff went live, but I played with a good team of players who knew what they are doing. And in such scenario the gun was really nice because it has good range, pretty good damage, good accuracy, but the slowness of the weapon makes it really not a good choice to play with random teams when you have to be versatile but also play like more towards the OBG, and you have to rotate to the next one, you have to cap ABCs, whatever, and so in such case the gun is just too slow. And it really depends on what your team is doing. If you see that your teammates are good at playing OBG, then you can use the gun, and if they are not good at playing OBG, then certainly just switch to something else. And basically, it is really a pretty hard call. I cannot see that the gun is unusable, because with a good team, and in sweaty lobbies you might encounter good teams who actually know how to play. But in the same sweaty lobbies you might also encounter players who are trying to get a nuke. So basically either you need to observe what the teammates are doing or just don't use the gun overall. Because there will be situations when you just have to switch to something else. And so after the rank reset, the lobbies were really chaotic. I think that good players are simply not playing right now. So it was a huge deal of suffering until I got this one gameplay, where I didn't get many kills, but I played OBG and well, we won and I got the MVP. And my kind of like a goal of testing the guns, but I have to get MVPs with them. KN44 on the other hand, I tried Wake's gunsmith and just my usual gunsmith, so basically Wake's it has the marksman barrel, and my usual is with the ranger barrel and the tactical suppressor, so basically one is a bit slower but has better BSA and range, and other is more versatile, but with either of the options, even though it did felt a bit better compared to the LK24, but the overall aim assist is not as good as on the LK24 or Type 19 for instance, to which I'll get back later, and the gun does have good range, but the lack of aim assist, it kind of makes it harder to control. There is also the recoil, which is not as pleasant as with the other weapons. And so I think that even though the gun is powerful, you don't really want to use it like for extended periods of time, if you are for instance grinding rank to get to the legendary SAP, because you will just get more tired with the weapon compared to how you would feel with other guns. But it is more versatile compared to the LK24, and still I think that again the lack of aim assist compared to the other choices and the tiredness, it is kind of making it not a good choice for sweaty play. So basically, if you really want, you can use it. It is not a bad weapon, but it has its issues. And even when it comes to the like range and damage, we have better options nowadays. So yeah, overall I would say that don't use it unless you have some very nice skin and just want to play with it when you can try to use it. But otherwise, no. Next weapon is going to be the Kilo 141, and I kind of thought to maybe not even include it, but the thing is that I've tried it out earlier, when more good players were still in the lobbies, and the Kilo was really good. It felt like it had like a easier to control, faster movement, better EDS time, good damage, like compared to the NEF Type 19, and it was really performing well. But later on, I started getting players who are not very OBG oriented, and for instance in this gameplay I'm trying out a variant with OVC laser instead of the tactical suppressor to just make it a bit faster, because it suffered the same problem that the LK24 has, but it was simply too slow. And KN44 with a random team would be a better option. And LK24, even though it is slow, it does have a better range, I would say, but Kilo, I think that I would personally prefer Kilo compared to the LK24, but we both again have the same thing, that if your teammates aren't actively OBGing, then you will be at a disadvantage using it. And in such case, you could use Kian or even some of the weapons that I will show later. So it is kind of a usable gun with a good team. But if you're playing with randoms and during the rank reset, I think that you really should not use it unless you see that your teammates are good. Which also, of course, can happen. So it is like debatable, depends on the situation. But if you don't have many loadouts, then certainly just don't use Kilo, don't use LK24. Grau 556 on the other hand, they made a video a bit earlier this season as well. And it would be the more versatile choice from these four now. And you can use it if you want. It has pretty good mid-range, okay long range. At least the build I'm using is a bit more like faster, so it does have a better mid and like not as good of a long range. You could also make it to have a good long range by replacing some of the attachments. But I like this one because I mean I need to play versatile. Especially when I play with randoms, it is a must. And so this one is a really good choice with Grau. But there is a bit of a problem with PDW and SMG. It has a big mag, good mobility, and fast CDS time, and they are both kind of very similar in terms of use. For as long as you're not like doing very long range shots, in such case Grau would be better. So Grau is kind of a good option to use if you want an assault rifle with a range. But if you don't care about the range as much, then you could really just use the PDW instead. Regardless, I do want to mention Grau because again it is an assault rifle, it has better range. And it is very easy to use, which can be a huge advantage if you plan to play like many hours after the rank reset. Maybe you will just not sleep until you reach the legendary or something like that. So in such case Grau would be not a bad choice because again the use of it is very simple, very easy. Like the recall, everything. And so it is a gun that you can actually have in your loadouts. Now the nerfed Type 19, the nerf hit hard to the mobility, and you can kind of tone it down by using the mag foregrip instead of the grip tape, but then the ADS time is lower, and it used to be one of my top 3 most used weapons previous rank season, but after the nerf, it is really not that good. And I kept on trying out various other alternatives, pretty much what I'm summing up in this video. And I think that for range battles it is still better compared to LK24, KN44 and others, but the slower ADS time just makes it not as good as a versatile choice. And for this reason you might just go and use the XM4, which I will cover later, or even the Grau if you want. But at the same time it is still better than the other range assault rifles. So that is also an important thing to keep in mind. And I would say that don't use KN44 or LK24 instead, just use Type 19 if you absolutely need a range option. But then again the same thing applies. If your teammates aren't very oriented towards the BG, then it will not be a very good choice. And also since the ADS time is slower and the close range battles are not as easy, you should not use it in small maps. So like the criteria for these weapons would be big map, good team, and then you can really use it and get all the advantages with the nerfed ADS time. But yeah, so I think that it is worth it still to keep in loadouts, just you will not have a good lobby where you can use it very often. But at the same time I thought about it more now, and I think that you kind of should have one loadout for a dedicated, more range-oriented weapon, like for instance this Type 19, because you will find yourself in some lobbies where you keep on getting killed from like longer distances, and in such case you would just switch to your range assault rifle loadout. And it could be Type 19, LK24, maybe even KN44, but from these I do think that Type 19 is just the best one to choose. Now in this video I'm not including the Odin because it is a kind of a different animal in my opinion, but it is also a must-have loadout in the current meta setting. But finally the best versatile assault rifle, it would be the XM4. Now the range, despite it is not as good as Type 19's, it is still good, and the mobility is way better, the ADS time is way better. Previous season they were both quite similar, but I used VXM4 to be a bit more aggressive and Type 19 for a bit more passive range playstyle, but in terms of movement, otherwise we were kind of close. And now, so the same thing applies. Type 19 is better for like pure range battles, but now that it has been nerfed, XM4 it has just better mobility, like even better than it did before. And the range is really still good despite not as good, and it is really easy to control, and really everything is great about this gun. And frankly, it would be a mistake not to have an XM4 loadout. It is kind of a mix of Type 19 and Grau, I could even say. So basically, but it has the best from both the options. And you really just should definitely have XM4. And then for range backup, well, I would say Type 19 or LK24. Meanwhile, the Grau, well, like I said, PDW is better, and XM4 is also not difficult to use. So like, unless you absolutely want to have Grau, just don't have Grau, have XM4. And I would say PDW from SMGs. And can still have Type 19. Just for those situations when you absolutely need a range gun. But otherwise, like if you had to only use one, if you only had loadout for one, then it's definitely just hands down XM4. It was not nerfed, it was buffed previous season, now the recoil is very easy to control. Just no excuse to not have it, like I said. And with that I finally conclude the video. I hope that you found some insights worth watching it. And like, even if you don't use these weapons, if you know how to play against them after watching this video, then it is also useful knowledge. And so yeah, I hope that you are going to have a good rank reset grind, or just last in the sweaty lobbies, whatever you want to do. And I'm glad that I made this video, that I tried all these weapons, because I'm just now feeling more prepared.